in Australia, the latest stop in Pence's trip to the Asia-Pacific region.
The President and I have great confidence that China will properly deal with Korea. But as President Trump made clear just a few short days ago, if China is unable to deal with North Korea, the United States and our allies will.
China, as well as Russia, have moved military resources to their borders with the Hermit Kingdom. So let's bring in Heritage Foundation Senior Research Fellow for East Asia Studies, Dean Cheng. Thank you so much for joining us, Dean.
Thank you for having me.
I want to get your reaction first to the military movement. It's sort of a show of force, not really unusual. The United States does it, a number of countries does it. Is it productive in this particular instance? And what's your reaction to the movement that we're seeing?
Well, as we're watching all of the major players moving forces around North Korea, on the one hand, it is hopefully a reminder to Kim Jong-un that he truly is isolated. But at the same time, it's also reinforcing to him the message that he has no one that he can rely upon other than himself, and therefore his nuclear forces.
He can't rely on Japan or on China.
No. If anything, there have been reports that the Chinese have also moved forces closer to the border, and I don't think anyone really thinks that it's the Chinese moving to support North Korea. Rather, they're moving forces really to guard against the possibility of instability in North Korea, whatever might happen in the next few weeks or months.
He does have an arsenal, though, not necessarily with a lot of capability to reach other countries, but he does have an arsenal.
He has quite an arsenal, and he has more than enough reach to reach South Korea. This is one of the great problems in any effort to deal with North Korea, is that North Korea literally has Seoul, the capital of South Korea, the largest city, the center of its economic and industrial capacity, in its gun sights. The city of Seoul is literally within artillery range of the DMZ, of the demilitarized zone that separates North and South Korea.
Okay, so when you talk about their arsenal, we talk about the show of military force with a number of countries. I want to ask you then, is the solution in any way military related, or is the solution in diplomacy? And what does that look like with this country? There's really not a lot of communication, so how do you conduct diplomacy?
Well, I think that too many folks automatically sort of assume that that's the sum total of options, and there are a few other choices. One of the great myths out there is that North Korea is the most sanctioned country on earth. And in fact, until very recently, when this administration imposed sanctions on North Korean banks, we actually had more sanctions on Zimbabwe than we did on North Korea. So there's an array of financial sanctions that can still be placed against North Korean individuals and North Korean companies and, of course, the North Korean state. And there are secondary sanctions that we can place upon China, who is North Korea's main economic partner, to say, really, China, here's your choice. You can value the millions of dollars of trade you have with North Korea, or the billions of dollars of trade you have with the United States, with Japan, with South Korea, and with the rest of the civilized world.
So why haven't we seen that yet?
I think that part of it has been that we all sort of default to what can planes and tanks and aircraft carriers do. To give Mr. Trump some credit, the man is a businessman by training and by experience. He's more likely to think about financial tools first. Second of all is that when the one time we did try something like that back in 2005 against a North Korean bank, the North Koreans reacted very badly. And for whatever reason, everyone sort of said, okay, let's not go there again. Instead of saying, hey, if this hurts, maybe we should double the pressure.
Does it behoove anyone to see a North Korea crippled economically? And I ask that because you talked about the relationship with China. So China does not want to see that. So when we talk about sanctions with North Korea, that doesn't just impact North Korea.
No, that's absolutely right. China is, we, the U.S., South Korea, and Japan are worried about North Korean nuclear weapons because they're aimed at us. China is pretty confident North Korea's nuclear weapons aren't aimed at them. So what they're worried about is the possibility of collapse of North Korea, which sanctions might accelerate, and therefore millions of refugees crossing the Yalu into China. So that's one of the reasons why they are very reluctant to act that way, and why at the end of the day, in a sense, it's up to us to sort of present that very stark choice of do something to North Korea or suffer economic sanctions, and whatever it is you choose to do, we need to at least acknowledge that it could have consequences that will affect China. Because I think part of what the Chinese are saying is, do you understand America? What the consequences of your actions might be.
Right. Do you suppose that we'll see another test shortly?
There are a lot of reports about activity at North Korea's nuclear sites.
I saw that. They're playing volleyball. Is it? Is that what I? Is that what I read? That
things,
volleyball.
But,
Interesting.
So it's certainly possible.
Into volleyball. Dean, thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's really interesting. It's a scary time, but thanks for breaking it down.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Leland?
And a Fox News alert coming to us from none other than the president's Twitter account. You can see here just